Zhukova and Nino Batsiashvili, Natalia went for what we call a London system, d4. Usually, though, it used to be far more common to play this setup. Zhukova went in the game after knight f6, knight f3, g6, and then white would go for bishop f4, e3, c3, and so on. But recently, even top men grandmasters, well, from time to time, you see them playing bishop f4 and move to after d7, d5. This is precisely what happens in our game. Knight f6, e3, black plays e6. I'm still wondering what are the gains for white if black sort of repeats the idea, so it tries to develop the bishop behind the pawn chain and then play e6 and c6, but it's just another story. So e6, knight f3, bishop d6, knight bd2, so that black can take on f4, right? And one would think damaging white's pawn structure, but in fact you probably help white in this line because white will put the bishop to d3, make a castle, and try to make use of an e5 square. So those two pawns control the center nicely. That would be kind of good scenario for white. So bishop d6, knight bd2, and black played b7, b6. Yeah, that's precisely the position where neither side would mind to have double pawns, because if white takes on d6, then I believe black will recapture with the pawn, getting more control over the central squares, and then we'll develop the bishop on b7, knight on d7, potentially jumping with this knight to e4. This promises us somewhat slow start of the game. Again, no theory practically in this line, so you go by common sense and general rules like developing the pieces, king safety. So not that in theoretical lines you are doing it the opposite way, but sometimes, you know, can get, particularly if it's a long computer analysis, then spectators might be kind of lost. What for they make this move or that move, and then it turns out it has some explanation which is 10 moves of computer line. But here everything is transparent, everything is logical. Both sides try to develop their pieces, and since there is no immediate clash in the center, well, I still believe white's potential plan is to, white's influence in the center will be connected with c2, c4. Or alternatively, you can go for bishop d3 and try to put the knight on e5 somehow, and then it will be kingside oriented play. Let's say after b6, let's go bishop d3. Then has to be said, black possibly could go bishop a6 and swap the bishops. So here you don't know. I'm thinking if it might be that you start with c3. So that, setting a little trap. If bishop will go to a6, white's going to take and give queen a4 check. This one, yeah, and that's precisely what she played. So in this case, it's a double attack, and white wins the knight, but obviously you will have to decide on something after black makes a castle, because, now you have a chance to keep the bishop on the board, but at the cost that your own king cannot be castled. So it's probably not the best idea. So king gets stuck in the center in this case. It will be pretty much double-edged, because not that black can open the center immediately, and if white is in time to play knight e5, queen f3, so he might consider castle long, and those attacks of white with g4 and g5 later on, they are quite quick. So it might be an idea for Natalia Zhukova. At least this game will be very, very tense. I don't know how good this one objectively is. So after castle, to play bishop d3 and to respond to bishop a6 with bishop c2. Meanwhile, well, some more moves being played in a game of Hurricane Kostova against Nino Batsiashvili. So one more leader with the black pieces, Nino Batsiashvili after c3. Remember this tricky move preventing bishop a6. Black actually went for castle, knight e5 was played, knight from f6 went to d7, bishop d3, and bishop a6 follows from Nino Batsiashvili. So now I'm wondering what's going to happen after bishop c2. Really, that is probably the move I would love to play with white, if I make sure that I'm in time to move the queen next move and to castle long. And now with knight being already on e5, it does look like not a bad idea. So takes on e5, for instance. White captures with the pawn usually. Then, in case of knight c5, I guess knight b3 should work. Right, and then moving the queen and castling long, with, say, all the forces being ready to join the action on the king's side. Yeah, so bishop c2 is, well, I'm sure that it's a critical move, because anything else, like a capture here, I'm not quite sure if white can claim any kind of advantage. You do, okay, you can play this, seemingly, no, not at all actually. Bishop e5 is probably playable, so that after d5, knight c5, black should be fine. Black should be fine. Now this bishop on f4 is not doing much. Yeah, so it's bishop c2 or anything else, but in case of this anything else, it's not clear if white is getting anywhere. Right. So, getting to the end of the first hour of play, just to sum it up. Interesting and, well, promises us an interesting fight. This game, Zhukova against Batsiashvili, somewhat modest opening play by Olga Gira led to the Zhukova against Batsiashvili. Zhukova just played bishop d3 to c2, which I said is the most ambitious, the most challenging move in the position, planning for queen f3 or queen h5 if given a chance, and then to castle long. Yeah. f6 will be a terrible mistake here, I think. Okay, not such a terrible mistake, but after queen h5 you will have to play f5. So it doesn't make sense to lose a tempo. If you are fine with playing f7, f5, then you have to do it now. Taking on e5 is not such a serious... well, I'm not sure now. There is knight c6. Targeting this one. Yeah, it might be the way to go. Queen h5 allows black to play g6 and then to capture a pawn, where I'm not sure if white will have enough compensation. Queen h6, I'm sure he will not actually. This knight takes on e5. Despite black, dark squares around black king is somewhat weak. White seemingly is not getting there. So that after knight c6, white will have to play knight f3, and then it's, well, somewhat awkward. Somewhat awkward for white to continue. It's a pity black is not in time to play c5 first, because after c5 it's queen h5, you will have to play g6, queen h6, and then knight will go to f3. So white is in time in this case, so you have to play knight c6, and after knight f3, well, queen is not getting to h5 quickly, but it remains to be seen if black has something. f6 takes, and then d5 pawn is hanging, so you are kind of not... well, maybe this is playable actually. Knight takes, and the king is still not safe for white, so it might be that this is playable. That's like queen d2 in order to castle long, and then black can even play knight e4. So that takes. Here I'm not sure. Yeah, it does look pretty much playable. This knight d4, then black is going to take, pawn takes, and even c5 must be good enough. Having some weaknesses, but the king is stuck in the center, and this is a very important factor. So, well, rook from h1. I mean, if rook h1 to d1 would have been a legal move, then white would be doing okay. But as it is, with rook being stuck on h1, it's only black who can be better here. Alright, so maybe that's the way to play for black. After all, to take on e5 with the bishop and go knight c6. And then if knight f3 is played, then to go for f7, f6. Because if you don't play f6, you might be already... I mean, white might be threatening to take on h7 already. Not really. Knight e7, yeah, that's actually... That would be not very clever for white. I mean, this is typical way to blunder. Queen h5, and you're kind of happy you went for a typical sacrifice on h7, but here we go, bishop d3, and bishop protects h7 square. Other than that, if not for bishop d3, then white usually is doing quite well. Queen f7, okay, knight e6, here white is winning, but there is this nasty bishop d3 protecting h7. Alright, so this, knight c6, knight f3, and even knight e7 might be playable heading to g6 later on, or preparing c7, c5, but f6 is critical, perhaps. f6 is critical, using the fact that white's king has stuck in the center, and this might work. Alright, anything else we might take a look at? Meanwhile, we were shown one of the supporters present at the tournament hall. It was a mum of Valentina Gunina. So, an interesting development in a game between Pogonina, Zhukova and Batsiashvili. This is what happened. Look, f5, and this is potentially this. I mean, this is the slowest developing game. So potentially a big time trouble here. All the pieces kept on the board. After f5, I thought of queen h5, but Zhukova decided to play other knight to f3. So black took on e5, and that's interesting. That's interesting, because knight takes e5, which is kind of an automatic recapture. At least it allows black to swap more pieces. Knight d7, then possibly taking on e5 next move. Even though I'm wondering if... I mean, what happens after this move? It might be very, very dangerous for black. g4. What I was trying to make a point about it, this looks very attractive. The e5 move with the tempo. After bishop e7, I'll go g4. And if black captures, then once again knight d4 with the tempo, queen g4 with the tempo, and this looks, you know, resignable. All white pieces directed towards the black king. e7's hanging, white is ready to castle long. So with all the pieces still being on the board, it looks black is, well, as bad as lost here. So what's the plan after d5 and g4? Is there any... Well, it might be sad, but black will probably have to play g7, g6. Not that I'm a big fan of this position. Takes, then if h takes, and knight d4 again. No, this also looks pretty bad. Queen d7 and queen to h5. Again, looks like this poor king will never be saved. Remarkable. Knight f3. You should play knight f6. You should try to put this knight on e4. Okay, you already lost the fight for e5 square. Because knight takes e5 gives white precious time to develop a stronger initiative. De5 played without much of a hesitation by Natalia Zhukova. And Zhukova is on +1, so if she wins this one, she comes very close to the leaders. Bishop goes back to e7. She will basically switch places with Nino Batsiashvili. Nino is on +2, Zhukova is on +1. And g4. g4 here. I expect g4. The most energetic move. I mean, you might start with knight d4, but I don't see a point. Seems to be just good. h4 played by Zhukova, which is a bit of a surprise, to be honest. While white's position remains very, very attractive. No questions asked. I'm just curious, why do you really need this one? Was it... I mean, I was not looking seriously at g5. I was simply sure it shouldn't work. And probably it should not. I mean, takes, and something here. Actually, I have alternatives in this position. I think knight d4 must be strong with queen g4 or queen h5 later on. I mean, it just looks so bad for black, so I can't believe black can survive in this case. So h4, while not being a bad move, it sort of slows down a bit white's attack. Even though knight g5 now made possible, and g2, g4 is always an argument. Yeah, right. Still bad for black, but I would prefer g4 with white, kind of more energetic. Well, Zhu Wenjun and Khanty-Mansiysk, well, this game did develop. And then c5 was played, and Zhukova did not play g4, but she went for knight g5, where Batsiashvili took on g5, h g5, and g6 was played. So now black has enough forces to protect on h7. He's getting a chance to develop normally, while white's f4 bishop is not particularly a great piece. So I would really claim that Natalia Zhukova sort of misplayed the position. I mean, white is never worse here, I believe. Queen f3. I mean, alternatively, what you can do actually is not queen f3, but f3, king f2. You might still keep your king on the king side. Or to start with queen f3, after knight c6 to play over there, and then to go for f3 and king f2. Queen f3 was played. I believe black has to play knight c6. Well, just to illustrate, if white brings all three guys to the h file, black still can protect. Queen e7, rook to h1, then a rook d8 for instance, queen h3, now threatening rook g6, but black has rook to g7. And I can imagine that g to g4 will be not very pleasant move to face for black, but it still looks far more clear compared to the line with 12 g4, which I was offering. Because g4, it's clear if you play g5, well, white's attack develops very fast. Well, it could be that black would still have to play c7, c5. So I'm wondering, if knight d4 is the most precise move. So that after queen d7 to go here, and after c5, well, hard to say. It's very easy to sacrifice pieces which when, let's say, it's not yours. Takes and takes on f5. But this does look good. This does look good because black cannot take over there because of queen d5. So black has to lose one more tempo and still take control over d5. After something like queen c6, I believe rook g1. Well, quiet move, keeping all the threats would simply solve the game in white's favor. Queen g4 or queen h5. It's very dangerous for the black king. While now, you know, it might be that white is still better, but nothing decisive I can see in the next few moves, at least. So it's sort of a relief for Nino Batsiashvili. Well, Khanty-Mansiysk and Gunin are playing very interesting game. Against Zhukova. After g6, that was the last time we've seen. Actually, this game is played in a very slow way, so 20 minutes each left after 18 moves. So a big time scramble where everything will be decided, I expect. Queen e7, g4. I think queen e7 was somewhat not precise because after this it turned out that you have to take on g4 with black, otherwise you're not able to hold f5 or d5. fg4, queen g4, rook f7, but it opens the bishop, thus creating more attacking possibilities. Rook h6, rook g7. Now I'm not sure if black is in time to control everything. Castle's long, and knight d7, and knight will go to f8. That does the trick. That does the trick, that's right. Knight goes to f8. So now rook h1, for instance, black will play knight f8, protecting h7, protecting g6, and white still gets somewhat stuck. And once again, to remind you, this bishop could have better destiny. Now the bishop on f4 is not doing much. Perhaps have to mention one more motive. If white plays e4, trying to open some diagonal something. All right, against Zhukova seemed to hold quite well after castle and knight d7. Remember I said knight arrives to f8 and there will be not much of an attack for white on the king side. White realized that perfectly. Zhukova went king b1 and e4, opening the second front in the center. But seemingly black is also in time to deal with that. Bishop b7, then somewhat awkward move, bishop e3 was played. I mean, it certainly gives black additional prospects. Rook d8, ed5, rook d5, Zhukova went for f4, planning to bring the rook back. But still, white cannot make use of the e3 bishop and won't be able to do so for a very long time in this game. I mean, actually, it's hard to imagine this bishop ever getting somewhere. As for black's knight on f8, at that moment it is passive, but I mean, at least theoretically, the route for this knight to get to f5 exists in the position. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves, which is so it's highly unlikely that knight will ever appear on f5. But I mean, black is reasonably solid. Actually, he might decide that way. So the knight protects the king side, and black would play queen d8, for instance. After rook h1, play rook d7, well, which will most likely force more exchanges, and the resulting position doesn't look like white has anything. So which might be another draw of one of the leaders with the black pieces, and it all will depend on Zhu Wenjun and Khanty-Mansiysk, two leaders playing each other, because if one of them wins this position after f4, black first took on d1 and then played queen c7, rook h2 in order to be able to cover the d-file. Bishop d5 was played by Batsiashvili. Rook d2. Bishop d5 is somewhat surprising, to be honest. Rook d2. I think white will be... I mean, if white is to move, white will be delighted to sacrifice an exchange on d7. So therefore, Nino Batsiashvili played queen b7. Yeah. And the position still remains complex, but bishop from e3 doesn't really participate in the game. You might want to play b4, you know. Might want to play b4 just to disturb black's queen side a little bit. So that if black plays c4, then white gets some hope to play king b2, then, you know, to march the pawn further. And might be... hang on a second. Rook h2, bishop d5... Rook d2, queen b7, is that pardon, queen b7, is that a move? Or not really? So that was my point, but there is check over here, and then we are losing the e3 bishop. It's quite complex, and has to be said that the fact that Zhukova is down to her last 8 minutes in this position actually adds to the complexity of her task. Not easy to play this one with white. And I just realized that black actually wants to play bishop e4, to swap the bishops. I mean, and then to play rook d7, or to start with rook d7, then to follow with bishop e4. So it might be that white might end up worse, you know. So king a1 for this matter, so that bishop e4 you can play bishop b3. Maybe that's the way. So Natalia seriously misplayed her position. b2, b3 played by Zhukova. And then, I guess, rook d7 might be a clever move to follow. Well, it might as well be that white has no risk. And here he simply takes, plays king b2 and claims that he controls everything. And black has no way to go through. This also can prove to be right, but it's well, it's kind of clear that it's black who is trying. Right. So this most likely to be a draw. I changed my mind, and I think this most likely to be a draw. At some point I thought Zhukova was almost winning. Harik and Batsiashvili reached this position with Zhukova having only 2.5 minutes. b3, and then the bishops were not exchanged. c4 was played. King went to b2, after rook c7, b4, and rook d7 was met with bishop a4. Which is somewhat surprising. I thought a4, a5 had to be white's idea, where in fact white sort of provokes b4, b5, after which it doesn't look like white can get anywhere. Not that black can make progress, but white is certainly not making progress here. Rook c7. That's interesting. What was wrong with b5? Interestingly enough, white doesn't make progress nevertheless. Bishop stops a pawn from running, so it can be, yeah, Zhukova simply plays bishop c2 back, so it's a fair chance it's going to be a draw, because I don't think Nino has objective reasons to push for a win in this game. Black is solid, but doesn't look like black can really try to play for a win here. Yeah, at worst, let's say white can, I mean, if black tries to swap rooks, white can take then put the bishop on d4, queen on e3 again. Both sides are too solid in this game, so that something happens. Rook to f7. Yeah, well, at least Batsiashvili imitates some sort of activity. Rook f7, not accepting the immediate repetition. So Zhukova will have to make more moves under time pressure. Well, Kostyniuk is getting into trouble today. Kostyniuk will... Welcome back, dear friends, and during a press conference which happened to be a little bit longer than was needed, after exchange on c5 she's got two connected passed pawns, and all of a sudden she blundered one move which brought Nino Batsiashvili a strong counterplay. She blundered Zhukova in this position. She just played rook a1, blundering queen a5, and she blundered apparently the fact that queen c3 can be answered with queen b4 check. And still the situation was not hopeless here, I believe, but after king c1, rook f7, yeah, what I'm impressed with, Zhukova still had time, rook b1, c3, b6, and here it seemed, actually, after rook b1, I thought black had to go for a perpetual. After rook takes f4, there was a perpetual check here, and queen b4 check, and you cannot escape the perpetual. Right, instead black went for c3, which looked like a mistake to me, but happened to be a winning move after all. White went for b6, queen a6, rook b5. Rook b5 was not needed. She had to take on c3, and I think, I mean, as far as I can see, rook f4, queen takes c5, white still must be winning. Rook b5, bishop c6, and here it turns out that queen f1 followed by bishop a4 is a very strong threat. Rook c5, check, and not even bishop a4, but rook d7, after which white simply has no response to that. White took on c3, and after check, followed by check on d2, white's king is simply getting mated, so a very disappointing result for Natalia Zhukova, obviously. I thought she deserved to, win this game. But it happened. And now Shvili, who joins... All right. Yeah. So I think we go for a press conference of Zhukova and Batsiashvili, and in case the game between Gunina and Khanty-Mansiysk finishes, I'm not coming back on air at all, because the position is absolutely clear, winning for white. And then it will be press conference, which we'll see right now, followed by the other press conference, and I'll call it a day. Thanks for watching in this case, and unless in this game something will be in progress, then of course I'll be back.
Dear friends, another game has finished. Nino Batsiashvili won against Natalia Zhukova. The game was very dramatic. White was pushing, but in the end, you made a mistake, Natalia. Please show us the critical moment of this game.
Okay. It's critical. Any critical moment? Critical moment, yeah. I don't know how to. I think we here out of theory, no? I'm out of theory here. Yeah, I mean, already 6 move. It's women chess. Not like in the world championship match. Yes, I want to change my knight on e5 and play. Okay. Here. I like bishop c2 because I will attack somehow. But no. Yes, maybe knight e5 was not a good move. But I don't know how to play. How to play? I don't know. Okay, I like my position very much here. Yes, I must take here, I think. And g6. Yes. Okay. Yes, here black not losing because they have this maneuver with knight on f8, and I mean it's a very, very solid position, but
some kind of a fortress.
Yes. Yeah, but I was afraid this move. Yeah.
And
Rook h6.
yeah. Because
And
if
rook
you
g7
play
is possible, yeah.
this, you play maybe first this move because I have no knight d7. Here I must play this one. If
What I tried. Okay.
here,
And d7.
and somewhere first knight queen e3 you have somewhere. This idea.
No, this I didn't look
I
at
don't
all.
know.
Bishop g6.
Work or not? Maybe not working. Yeah. If you play here, maybe this is coming. Checkmate.
Unbelievable.
But what if king f7 right now? At the end, I go here.
Run away, yes, on the queen
Okay.
side.
And maybe this one.
No, maybe take on g5, no?
Yeah, also.
No, come on. I didn't look at
I was
all. Bishop g6,
afraid
you know,
this one.
just gave piece without some force variation. No.
But then I play knight f.
Yeah, I mean, position was about equal, maybe.
Yeah, here
Who
I
knows?
make a lot of mistakes.
But my ending can be better, you know, because I have pair of bishops and create some weakness on the queen side. But if black doesn't change queens, I think it's very solid position.
At some point it was better for white, yes?
Yes,
Much
it's
better.
I mean, okay, it's questions how much is better, you know, but maybe nothing special. It depends how black will move, you know, here. I don't know. Actually, I haven't in plan, you know, just clear plan, but
You are proving your
no.
position.
Then okay, we just move. I don't know. You didn't want draw or what? You didn't play rook d7. Okay.
In d7, my rook. I don't like my rook in d7. I think you don't play.
Yeah. Okay, rook d4. Okay, here we have a side note. It's nothing special, but after a5, queen a3, and knight d7, king a1, maybe I want to take on a5 and play rook d1. So if black plays something, I want to take on. I don't know how to.
Yes, maybe.
For example, king g7, bad move, but take. Sorry. I want to take rook a1, d1, I mean rook b1, and then so on. Yeah? That's why maybe you took on before. So yeah, that's why you took and I took, and clear bet, you know? I mean,
Yes, I cannot
rook
push
b8,
c3.
maybe immediately b5, I don't know why, okay,
Yeah.
I don't know. Just I changed my mind and I want here, there, you know, and queen before, here I thought it's
Yes,
very big
I think,
advantage.
first I had
Because
this
queen d6, it's very big
But-
threat, you know, and then rook d5 just coming, you know, I don't know.
to losing position.
Knight c5, I didn't want. And then I blunder, first blunder queen c3, of course, I wanted to play, but I blundered queen b4 check.
Yes.
Oh, I thought queen a5, it's impossible. That's why I played so bad, you know, and I think maybe I'm lost. After b6, maybe
Rook c8.
rook c8, yeah. And it's threat c3 and b3, everything, you know, just so this I'll blunder, rook f7, okay, rook b1 here, I started again like my position, c3,
Yes.
b6.
I think here I have rook b7, but I blundered rook b5 in this
yes,
moment.
of course,
Yes.
rook
Because
b5, it's
I
threat.
play c3.
Maybe it's,
But
it's not
here I think I have no another move.
Yeah, c3, okay. b6, it's threat.
Yes. Also, I have no another move.
b6, queen a6, you know, it's very good move, queen a6, because I thought many of moves, but all of them I liked, but queen a6, I want to play first queen d3. Then I forgot, you calculate many variations, then you forgot that Queen F1 is threat. So first my idea, of course, to play Queen D3, I don't know what to play.
I don't know here what to play.
Hmm?
Because
I have no idea.
Cannot change and
Yes, you cannot
F4.
change. No, of course no. I don't know.
You will have
And
one.
if Queen B7, for example, maybe I can play.
You can take on C3.
Oh, I can
C5,
take,
yeah.
yes, but everything, just I don't know. And if Queen F1, it's Rook B5. I didn't play. Queen D3, it was my first, what I wanted to play.
C4, I have no.
Okay, you have maybe Queen D4, no? Even Queen C3, I don't know, but Queen D4.
Yes.
But on F4 is hanging.
No, Queen D4, why not?
Queen D4 is better, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic,
Maybe Queen A5 and I still.
What do you, Rook B5?
No, and Rook D5 you want to.
Yes, it's impossible, your position just...
Okay.
I just blundered, I forgot because I calculated Queen D3, then I forgot. Queen F1 is coming, it's fine.
Maybe you must.
I don't know how to play at Queen D3. I have no idea. I think, I'm not sure, I didn't check with computer. Terry, you didn't?
No, I had
Maybe Queen C8.
Queen C8.
Yeah, only move because on F4 is hanging.
I'm not sure. Okay, maybe on the first hand.
A5, A6, yeah?
No. A5, but I mean, sometime I will take on C3 and it's not nothing special, no?
Yes, and King B2 after and your pawn is
Yes,
pushing me.
no, I mean, just take immediately or...
And then Rook B5 maybe. After
It's...
B5 I don't like because A5, A6 better. And B7 after.
I mean, immediately take, yeah? Or play A5,
A5 is good, I think.
A6. Why not? A5.
Yes. And if I take A6
Yes, A6.
and
Thank you. Yes, we're all very tired. If you have any questions, so if you don't have questions, just please have some rest.
Yeah.
okay, thank you.